In this section, we're going to talk about another very popular and useful pattern called the observer pattern. The observer pattern is used in a lot of frameworks and applications, and chances are you have used it without being aware of it. We use this pattern in situations where the state of an object changes, and we need to notify other objects about these changes. Here's a real example. We have this spreadsheet with these values, and we have this pie chart that is based on these values. We have another sheet where we display the total of values on the first sheet. Now, when I change any of these values, you will see that the pie chart as well as the total value will get updated immediately. So if I change 2 to 5, look, our pie chart got updated and the total got recalculated. This is an example of the observer pattern. So we have an object, the state of that object changes, and that notifies other objects about that change. In this example, we have an object under the first sheet. Let's call that a data source object. So that data source object contains all the values that we have on this sheet. This sheet is purely a visual representation of that data source object. Now, whenever we change the data in that data source object notifies other objects about this change. In this case, the pie chart and the second sheet get notified. So they update themselves accordingly. Let's implement this in code. So let's add a new package. We call it observer. In this package, we need a few classes. One of them is data source. Now, in a real spreadsheet application, we need a table of values. We can represent that using a two-dimensional array or a similar data structure. But in this demo, let's not worry about those complexities. We just want to focus on the communication between different objects. So let's declare a simple integer field called value. So this data source has a value. Whenever the value changes, other objects need to be notified. Now, here we need a getter and a setter for this field. So let's generate them. Beautiful. Now let's add a couple more classes. One of them is spreadsheet. We can have many instances of this class. We also need a chart class. Now here's the problem. In our data source class, when we set the value of this field, we need to notify those objects. But at the time of writing this code, we don't know how many spreadsheets or charts are dependent on this value. That may change later at runtime. The user may add new spreadsheets or new charts that are dependent on this data source. Now, based on what you have learned in this course, I want you to spend 10 to 15 minutes and figure out a solution. We'll talk about solving this problem using the observer pattern in the next lesson.